Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name's Jerry. I'm your host. So I'm going to do something a little bit different over the next few podcasts. I'm going to do basically a podcast series specifically for chiropractors who are getting started or chiropractors who have been out for a little while and you're feeling a little bit stuck. I talk about that particular demographic all the time when I mention my Next Step program. And obviously, I will refer anyone, if you get a hold of me and you're like, hey, this is me and I need some help, generally I'm going to refer you to Next Step and say, hey, this is a great place to start to get some really good information and get some help. But my plan for this is to have a page on the website and have some content available that just goes over philosophically some of the things that you need to think about as a chiropractor when you get out of school. You've graduated, you have your degree, you're wanting to start your practice, you want to get your career going. There's a lot of things that you probably have never thought about, and they are going to be really important for you to have a successful practice. How you actually take the things that we talk about and apply them can be very unique to you, and it could be applied. You could have 10 different chiropractors applying this information 10 different ways, but the starting point is the awareness of these things, and that's what my intention is for this series of podcasts. So I want to encourage you that if that is you and you're in that situation, you're either getting started or you're feeling a little overwhelmed, I want to encourage you to listen to all of the podcasts. Some of them may be more beneficial to others for you, but I really want to encourage you to do that. And I will also say, if you feel like that is helpful and you want more information, then do check out my Next Step program. It is there to help, and that's who it's for. But this should be helpful regardless of whether you're ever a member of mine or not, you ever pay me a dime or not. Now, before I jump into this, because this one is just going to be an overview, and the point of this particular podcast of the series is going to introduce the idea and also just to discuss your situation, because I think that if you're going to be a successful chiropractor, a good starting point is just being honest with what is your situation, like what is ahead, what are you actually looking at? Because if you don't understand the task at hand, then you might not take it as seriously as you should, or you might go about trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, or you're not even aware of a problem that exists. So that's what we're going to talk about is just talk about your situation. What's the reality check for chiropractors who are trying to start their practice? Now, before I do that, I do want to say this in terms of if you're listening to this, because I know a lot of people will listen to this that have never listened to my podcast before. I'll just give you a really quick introduction to me. My name is Jerry Kennedy. I was a chiropractor for 9 years. I closed my practice. It's been a while since I have been in practice. When I started helping chiropractors, which wasn't right away, I didn't intend on doing this, but when I started helping chiropractors, I started with the intention of helping chiropractors who are just getting started or chiropractors who are struggling to kind of get their head above water. I have a soft spot in my heart for that particular group of chiropractors, which is why I started my Next Step program. As time has gone on, I've started doing things like websites for chiropractors and search engine optimization. I'm actually looking into doing some Google ads and things of that nature here soon, which don't hold me to that if you're listening to this a year from now and I still haven't done that, because I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to go that route. But services for chiropractors. But I have been a chiropractor. I know what it's like. I understand the business. I understand patients. And my goal is to hopefully help you learn some things that are going to help you with your career. You don't have to be me. Frankly, you're better off not being me. One me is more than enough. But I do want to help you be you, and you do have to have kind of a mental starting point, and those are some of the things we're going to talk about. If you want more information, go to rocketchiro.com. That's my website. So let's talk about understanding your situation. The thing that is really important for chiropractors to understand that are getting started is that one thing is that you are in a performance-based business. This is not a business where you're getting paid for your mind, not generally speaking. Now, you obviously do have to understand certain things to be a chiropractor, but this is a performance-based business where you are most likely working with people one-on-one, putting your hands on them, doing some sort of instrument, using some sort of therapy. You are really in the trenches as a chiropractor. And the only reason that I bring that up is because if you neglect the performance aspect of becoming a chiropractor, I do think that it handcuffs you long term. Now, the flip side of that is this. I don't believe that just because you're good at adjusting or you're just good because you're good at therapy and you get good results as a chiropractor, I don't believe that that is the thing that is going to be the difference between you being successful and not. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of very successful, busy chiropractors who aren't really all that good at treatment, aren't that good at adjusting, But I do think that it undermines many of the other things that we're going to talk about over this series when you're trying to build authority and credibility and you want to get retention and all of that stuff, which is going to be super important. If you're not really good at what you do and you're getting bad results or you're not getting very good results, you're just making your life harder than it has to be. Across the board, I wish chiropractors were better at what they do. I wish that we were known for excellence, no matter what style of chiropractic, no matter what your philosophy is, no matter how you go about helping your patients. I want to encourage you to be really, really good, like really commit to being excellent at what you do from a patient care standpoint. I would love to see the next generation of chiropractors have just a much higher bar than what chiropractic has traditionally had. So just understand you're in a performance-based business and it matters. Next thing is we're going to talk about the obvious thing, and that is you are more than likely 6 figures in debt. I think that's probably being conservative for a lot of chiropractors getting started. And that's sort of the elephant in the room. It's ugly. I think school costs too much. I think it's sort of a ripoff. But frankly, if you did it, you did it. If you're a chiropractor, you have the debt. There's nothing really you can do about that at this point in time. You can only just start paying it back and getting serious about it and kind of doing what you need to do. But let's be honest, you're in a 6-figure debt, most likely. And that does require that you make more money than just $40,000 a year or something along those lines. So if you're not honest about that, you're basically going to be in debt for the rest of your life and then some. So number 3 reality for chiropractors is that more than likely there's not going to be a great job that's available for you. The chiropractic profession, this is not, when you go to school, they don't have these honest conversations with you, but the reality is you're most likely not going to get out of school and get a 6-figure job. Your most associate jobs, and there are going to be some exceptions to that and some partnerships and some different things that might be available for some people. Most likely what's going to happen as a chiropractor is you're going to have the option of working for somebody else with a very low income relative to what you probably should be making or could be making on your own. Or you're going to have to start your own practice, which does require you to have some small business skills that you just are not innately going to have. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something that you fall out of a tree and get. It's not something that you get a chiropractic degree and it comes along with it. It's just a different set of skills. And one of the things I say a lot of times is if somebody graduated from chiropractic or somebody graduated from business school, they had their MBA and they got pulled after they got their degree, somebody pulled them aside and said, now go be a chiropractor. We would be horrified by that because we would go, wow, they know how to run a business. They have this MBA, but they don't know how to be a chiropractor. The same thing is true for chiropractors. Unfortunately, we get our degree as a chiropractor. You pass boards, you learn how to be a chiropractor, and then they pull you aside and say, hey, you can run a small business. It's equally as horrifying. I know it doesn't seem that way because everybody thinks they can run a small business, but that's just simply not the case. So just understand that getting a job really isn't probably much of an option. So throws you into the category of running a small business, which is my next point, that small business competency is going to be essential. Now, I am not saying you have to be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or any of these other massive, brilliant business people. You just have to be a competent small business owner. You do not have to have multiple clinics. You do not have to have 25 different staff people. There are a bunch of different ways to be successful as a chiropractor, but you are going to have some basic small business chops, and you have to know your business and you need to do it well. And if you don't do that, you're just going to be struggling your entire career as a chiropractor or until you quit and do something else. And I have not seen recent stats. I'm not even sure where I would get those recent stats are, but I have heard that up to 50% of chiropractors are not in practice anymore after 5 years, or after 5 years of being out of school, they're not chiropractors anymore. Regardless of whether that's an accurate stat or not, there are a ton of chiropractors who graduate from chiropractic college who are no longer chiropractors, myself included. So it's not always a bad thing. 2 more points, and that is this. Number 1 is that there are lots of ways to be successful. I sort of touched on that. If you have surrounded yourself with one particular type of chiropractor and you think that's the only way to do it, and you're kind of frustrated or you struggle with it or you're not good at it or whatever, the good news is there are other ways to do it. I would just say ask for help, look in a different direction, check out different philosophies, different approaches. Micro practices are a great way to get started. Sometimes chiropractors are told, like, you can't do that or you're not a real chiropractor. Nonsense. Other people's opinions, most of them, the vast majority of them don't matter. This is not in my notes, but I'm just going to stop and tell you this since we're just getting started. Other people's opinions do not pay your bills. There's going to be a small, tiny group of people that you really admire and trust, that their opinion matters. And so there are some people in this world that their opinion should be weighted heavily, and you should listen to what they have to say. People that are your mentors, things of that nature. The peanut gallery, social media, the chiropractor down the road, the person you went to class with, there are a whole bunch of people in your life that are going to offer their opinion, or they would if given the opportunity. And their opinion is worth diddly doo-dog nothing. It's just worth squat. So don't try to pay your bills with other people's opinions. There's a lot of different ways to be successful as a chiropractor. As long as you're being honest, as long as you're being excellent, screw what everybody else thinks. It doesn't matter. Last thing I want to say is this, is success does not happen overnight. If you go about your career, if you start your career thinking that you're going to be successful in the first year and you're not going to struggle, you're setting yourself up for unnecessary frustration. I'm not saying you can't be that way. You could. It's entirely possible. I'm just saying it's not very normal. Most of the time, people grow into their success. They grow into their talents. They grow into their skills. That takes time. If you come out into the real world and you just try to hit home runs all the time, you're going to strike out a lot, and you may end up failing before you get the opportunity to get your feet underneath of you. Just understand, and we're going to talk about this more in other podcasts. We talk about consistency and things of that nature. Just understand that there's a lot of ways to be successful, and that success is most likely not going to happen overnight. So those are some things to think about. We are just getting started with this podcast series for new chiropractors and struggling chiropractors. Like I said, I hope you will listen to the other podcasts. If you have any questions, concerns, snide remarks, feel free to reach out to me on at rocketchiro.com or check out my Next Step program. I will talk to you guys on next episode. See ya.